All right, guys, welcome back. Hope everyone had a great week. Hope everyone's going to have a great Friday. Let's start off here talking about probably the biggest news to come out yesterday, and that has to do with the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2. We know that the Nintendo Switch 2 is in the works. It is going to be coming out relatively soon. The Nintendo Switch, originally released in March of 2017, it's had an absolutely incredible run and still continues to sell very well. You think about Super Mario Wonder that is coming out in October. That's going to sell tons of units, probably sell a lot of consoles. So the Nintendo Switch is nowhere near being finished, but the Nintendo Switch 2 needs to come out soon, as the tech in the original Nintendo Switch is just greatly fallen behind what is out there now on the market with the Xbox Series X, Series S, and the PlayStation 5. Now, during Gamescom, we heard some reports that the Nintendo Switch 2 is apparently being shown off behind closed doors, and there were tech demos, and it looks like that is the case, as Nintendo is getting very close to announcing and releasing the Nintendo Switch 2 in 2024. This comes via a new report from Eurogamer, and the sources from Eurogamer, as well as some other sources, are confirming all of this stuff as to what actually happened at the closed doors showcase for the Nintendo Switch 2. And here's what happened. So it says here, Nintendo privately showed and invited developers specially prepared tech demos for the next generation games console, the Nintendo Switch 2, specifically showing off a upgraded version of Nintendo's Zelda's Breath of the Wild, the first game that did launch with the Nintendo Switch. Was a huge launch title, released on the Switch, also released on the Wii U at the same time. One of my favorite games of all time. And they showed it here running with higher frame rates and higher resolutions, kind of just showing the difference between what you would be able to get on the current Switch versus when this new one does come out, the big upgrade in the graphics and the performance that we're going to be getting on games. But they say there's no suggestion that the game would actually be re-released. Now, this part here, this next part is very, very interesting to see, because if this is true, this is a very good thing for the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2, and I think it will put it in that ballpark with the Xbox and PS5. Obviously not as powerful as those consoles, but at least being able to use things like Unreal Engine 5. So it says another VGC source claimed that Nintendo showcased Epic's impressive Matrix Awakens demo, Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, originally released to showcase the power of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X in 2021, running on the target specs for its next console. And the demo is said to have been running using NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling technology. That would be a big difference between the Xbox and the PlayStation and Nintendo, as we both know that Xbox and PlayStation partnered with AMD, and they're using the FSR technology, whereas NVIDIA has their DLSS technology, which a lot of people would argue is better than the FSR technology. And if Nintendo is going to be partnering with NVIDIA, that's a huge thing for them to be able to utilize that to get better performance out of the games without putting as much pressure on the hardware itself. Because you can assume that the Switch 2 isn't going to be more powerful than the Series X, or more powerful than the PS5, and maybe not even more powerful than the Xbox Series S, or maybe just in that same realm in terms of what it's going to be able to output. So needing NVIDIA's DLSS is obviously going to be something they absolutely have to have running to be able to improve the performance of the games that they do release. They also say here that this console had advanced ray tracing enabled and visuals compared to Sony's and Microsoft's current gen consoles. So huge that they are trying to compete along those lines. And you would assume it's for those big AAA releases from third parties that will want to utilize technology and be able to put their games on the upcoming Switch 2. Now, it does say this. However, it should be noted that this does not mean that the Switch successor will sport raw power anywhere near that the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, which aren't portable devices. And very fair. But you could think about some of the handheld PCs that are coming out, and it may be closer to the specs on those, maybe closer to something like the Steam Deck, because they obviously have to get the price range that they need for a Nintendo console, which is, I would say, $399, $429 at the absolute max that they would want to sell this for. And to be able to do that, they can't have anything too crazy in there. With the original Nintendo Switch, where they skimped out on was the screen. That was something that, if you take a look at the OLED model versus the OG Nintendo Switch, it's just night and day, and you can see that was something that reduced the cost for the original release, and they were able to get it in that price range. So that's going to be something to keep in mind here. They have to keep it within that console price range, but they do want to be able to entice third-party developers to put their big AAA games on the platform itself natively, and that so that it helps push and sell consoles and getting people from all of the different walks of genres that they like to play, and make it more of a multi-platform device, not just a Nintendo first party device. That'll be the main draw. The Zeldas, the Marios, hopefully Metroid Prime 4 eventually gets released, and any other stuff that they do put out. But when the big AAA games are coming out on the Xbox and the PlayStation 5, I think Nintendo does want to be there. And we do know that they're going to be getting Call of Duty. So they're going to want to be able to have that and make it a version of the game that people would be interested in playing. Now, they do say here that DLSS feature exclusive to NVIDIA graphics cards, meaning that Nintendo, again, would be partnering with NVIDIA for the SoC in this thing. And they say, according to Digital Foundry analysis, DLSS at any normal screen distance looks almost as good as the real thing. Notably, Nintendo filed patents for potential AI upscaling technology plans back in March of 2020. With that upscaling technology, right now with the Nintendo Switch, you can get games at 1080p when it's docked, and then you can get games anywhere from like 540p to 720p, wherever it is, when it's in handheld, obviously depending on the game itself. But with this patent here, they're looking to get games, showing games that are 540p images being upscaled to 1080p. And it does mention that there are other upscaling processes, including upscaling to 4K, would be possible. I feel like at this point, they are going to want to have something that has the ability to at least be upscaled to 4K to take advantage of the widespread 4K displays out there now. If you remember back when Nintendo waited a generation to enter the HD era of gaming, because the Nintendo Wii was in HD, but then the Nintendo Wii U was HD. It'll be very similar here, where they're waiting a generation and a half about, because you think about the One X, you think about the PS5 Pro, where they marketed the 4K and upscaling at least the 4K. They're going to want to enter that era now with this Nintendo Switch 2. So there it is. The Nintendo Switch 2 is coming, and probably sometime in 2024, maybe early 2024. And some other information here that did come out is that apparently it's going to have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and again, DLSS 3.1. So that is going to be a huge player, something to keep your eyes out on, and it'll be going directly against the Xbox Series XS and the PlayStation 5, even if the games are running at lower resolutions and don't have as great as performance. We have seen, it's been proven that the power narrative isn't what sells the consoles. It's the brand marketing, the first party titles, the entry cost, something like portability, which the Nintendo Switch has an additional feature of, with how well it's sold. It's probably one of the major reasons why it sold so well. So it'll be cool to see another player in this market creating more competition. And again, Microsoft and Nintendo, they work pretty well together. They've kind of had a decent relationship, from the Minecraft to now getting Call of Duty on here. And we'll see how this goes forward. Maybe Xbox is going to be releasing some more of their games on the Nintendo platform going forward. Legacy titles, games that now will be able to run. I don't think they'll be releasing any of the new stuff on there. As they've said multiple times, these are what are going to be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. But I mean, you never know. And I'm excited because I do like my Nintendo Switch. I'm excited to see what this thing looks like, how they change it up, like the Joy-Cons. Hopefully they make those more comfortable. I hated the feel of those in handheld mode. My hands literally fell asleep 10 minutes into using the device. So hopefully that's a nice upgrade. Maybe they'll add better motion controls or better rumble. They did have the haptic feedback, which is pretty cool in the Joy-Cons itself. But I'm just excited to see what Nintendo's next entry into the console market is. And then let's jump over here to this. This is something that's actually absolutely hilarious. This was an interview with Bloomberg, and right off of the bat, there's a question about PC optimization. So let's just listen to it, because Todd Howard has an epic response here to the question.
I asked our audience, what would you ask Todd? Big question from many. Why did you not optimize this game for PC?
We did. It's running great. It is a next-gen PC game. We really do push the technology, so you may need to upgrade your PC for this game, but it's got a lot of great stuff going on in it, and the fans are responding awesome.
There you have it. I mean, the question is absolutely absurd. The journalist look at the fans' questions, I guess, that were submitted or whatever it was, and did no further investigation as to whether this question was stupid or whether it was legitimate, because clearly it wasn't. The game obviously is optimized for PC depending on your rig. If you have a rig that can run it well, it's going to run better than if you have a rig that is a lot older and it's going to struggle with it. It is a massive game. It is using new technologies, and that's clearly what Todd Howard says here. So it's just a funny thing here. They're still getting asked such weird questions. We saw it in my video yesterday where there's still the question about, is Starfield going to be exclusive or is it going to come to the PlayStation 5? All of the absurdity surrounding Starfield in its initial launch week has been insane, with the fanboys going out and trying to destroy it. People not being able to admit that it is a good game objectively. If you've played through it, even if it's not for you, it's objectively a really amazing game with the world that they have built and the RPG mechanics and all that type of stuff. So just an hilarious another question here from these big mainstream media companies that obviously have no idea about what is going on when it comes to this game, that they continuously are asking these questions. I just find those things extremely funny. And in talking about the actual PlayStation side of things and the fanboys, there was this. Somebody actually has a mod already showing that the PlayStation Studios logo is going to be starting up when you launch Starfield rather than the Xbox logo. I guess maybe so that they can enjoy it better. I'm not sure, or maybe it's just for laughs. But Tom Warren actually had an epic response in the comments when somebody was asking why. Tom Warren responds, might improve scores for reviewers with a winky face. Now, obviously, he is trolling, but that was a huge question of debate with some of the reviews that were coming out, with the 7 out of 10s from GameSpot, the 7 out of 10 from IGN. If this was a PlayStation Studios game, would their review scores have been swayed whatsoever, especially with the whole Dan Stapleton situation, where there were receipts of him dressing up as Kratos being against the acquisitions from Xbox and Microsoft and just having really anti-Xbox takes on things. Now, you can argue, you could definitely separate those two things. You can have an anti-Xbox take and an opinion on acquisition and still be objective when reviewing a game. But a lot of people were thinking that that had a huge sway on his decision when it came to reviewing Starfield. And if it was a PlayStation Studios game, it was a PlayStation exclusive, would it have gotten an 8 or a 9 out of 10 from him and from IGN? Which, if you remember at the beginning, before all this acquisition stuff happened, it could have been a PlayStation exclusive. That would have been just an interesting timeline to see if we were able to kind of reverse time and make it a PlayStation exclusive, and then fast forward time to the reviews. Would the scores be different with the exact same game? We'll never know that, but it's kind of irrelevant. The review scores don't really matter. If you've played the game, you can see the greatness of Starfield. So just a couple of funny things there. And then when it comes to the player counts, I know the game has just officially been released now for a couple of days. There was the premium access release where you paid the $100 price tag, you got early access to the game. And we've seen those numbers where there was 1 million players on Steam and 1 million players on Xbox. So just an extremely good early access launch for the game with that amount of people paying that $100 price tag. And I thought, how big is this going to be when it officially launches, thinking it was going to be massive, and it has not disappointed in terms of the player numbers, as Xbox does confirm here that they had 1 million concurrent players across all platforms during the launch. The Starfield exceeded 1 million concurrent players across all platforms today. Thanks to all the players who helped us reach this great milestone, and congrats to the Bethesda Game Studio. So that is a phenomenal number. And this is a game that is exclusive to a single ecosystem, which is Xbox, proving that if you build out a large subscription service with lots of subscribers and you're able to release this game at the same time on PC, you're going to get a huge amount of players jumping in right away, even if it isn't available on 2 of the other major platforms like PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch, something that it would be much harder for the PlayStation and for Nintendo to achieve because they don't have that same type of ecosystem. Now, if PlayStation would have taken this game and launched it into PlayStation Plus Day One, maybe it could have gone into the same place, but it really is showing the strength of having a strong subscription service. And I think other developers and publishers are going to look at something like this and say, hey, if you have a strong enough IP, people are really looking forward to, there's hype around it, and you launch it into something like Xbox Game Pass Day One, the numbers will far exceed expectations and get as many people playing it right away. And not only that, we also know now that Starfield is actually the greatest launch in Bethesda history, which is massive. They say thanks to over 6 million Starfield players. This is a tweet from Starfield saying, as of this morning, Starfield has already surpassed 6 million players, making it the biggest Bethesda game launch of all time. This is only literally a day after the official release date of September 6th, 2023. This game is massive. It's going to be bigger than most games probably that release in the next couple of years, to be honest. We'll see how it stacks up against the biggest PlayStation 5 exclusive, which is going to be Spider-Man, or at least the biggest one in 2023. We'll see what the numbers are across the board. But I mean, Starfield is going to continue to do huge numbers, probably break records for Bethesda. So a very successful launch. And the best thing about it all is that it is a great game. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.